Kathy, I'm standing by with Minister of Communications, Nomvula Mokonyane. We've just been looking down at the valley behind us that sort of stretches from Orlando Stadium and across the Klipspruit River Valley, kind of tributary of the Klipspruit River, and comes up on the other end at Orlando West, and where you see the activity there close to the home of Winnie Mandela. And I'm going to start by asking you, Minister, a question that says, if this valley could talk, what stories would it tell about Mama Winnie Mandela's footprint through the history of this township, through the history of South Africa?
Morning to the viewers and things. This valley would actually narrate the footprints of Mama post the shootings in 1976, where she came with many other community leaders and parents to come and pick up dead bodies that were lying here in this valley. Because remember, this is one area where students actually fled from that side of Orlando to this particular end. And the story, as it has been depicted at the Hector Peterson Memorial Center of Dedication, reflects children who were actually running away but were still maimed at, because many of them had bullets right at their back. And Mama was the first mother, was the first woman, was the first parent, was the first person other than the police to come onto this valley. And I'm sure this valley will say, here lies the biggest footprint that saved and helped parents to find their dead ones, young as they were, who were actually lying there dead on that particular day.
You tell a bit earlier on in the week, in fact I think last week, you told some of the most beautiful personal anecdotes about your relationship with Mam Winnie Mandela. There's a story that I know Kathy in the studio will appreciate, and for the benefit of our viewers who perhaps missed that interview, tell us about the story of the pots. Let the pots burn, as you were singing the struggle songs.
We were all talking about the intensification of the release of President Nelson Mandela, and we were all sitting in Mama's place, and every time when we came to her house she would prepare a meal, and there were always these big pots that she would personally cook. And then as she was talking, she went to the kitchen and she had samp, a big pot of samp, plain samp with no beans, and she was staring there, and she actually lifted the big spoon that she was using to stir the pot and started to sing Yibambe Niweba Fana, and the pot was actually boiling and almost burning. And one of the comrades actually said, "Mama imbiziacha," and she said, "Let the pots burn, we must go and free our children." And that on its own actually resonates very well with the fact that a woman's place is not in the kitchen, but in terms of a revolution, you have to actually be the one who is in the forefront to champion the cause for the future of the young people.
Yeah, absolutely. I suspect that perhaps what you just described now sort of talks to the difficulty that some people have to reconcile the Winnie that is being depicted in some of the narrative, the Winnie that was that is painted in a particular brush, with the Winnie that people know and have experienced. Over this past week of reflecting on Mama Winnie's life, what has been your sense of to what extent has the friction that has taken place between the version that perhaps those who were demonizing her would have wanted us to go with, and the version of the people that have lived experiences with Winnie Mandela?
What I've observed is that the nation, society at large, is refusing to be drawn into petty and distorted narrations that are championed, unfortunately, Thulasizwe, by some of us who are in the leadership, for reasons that are known by those individuals. Society says she was not an angel, she was not perfect, but in all those things, she executed a cause that many were cowards, including those that are speaking today, who could not actually dare go to the extent of coming here physically, pick up bodies, put them in your own car. Kids who are injured, they never did that. But it is also an unfortunate thing, because I think it must be a lesson in this year of self-correction and renewal, and what is being called the new dawn, that leaders must desist from from assuming that they are the only custodians of history. South Africans are telling the story of Mama as they know her better.
Let me ask you also now about the loss of another stalwart of the ANC, but also of South Africa, Dr. Thulasizwe. You're talking about the year being the year of renewal. This is a man who lived renewal post the Morogoro situation, Morogoro conference in 1969, but also someone whose fingerprints would be found in the founding document of South Africa. Our constitution served at the highest levels. What is your personal reflection on the passing of Dr. Skweyiya?
The month of April is just another month for the liberation movement and the people of South Africa. Condolences to Tutu and the kids, the entire Skweyiya family. And we must also appreciate the contributions. He was one of those few remaining in their own detachment, a generation that was very fearless, very determined. He also was one of those who was able to connect with both the internal structures as well as the external structures as part of constitutional development. Some of us were actually fortunate that as we were preparing for governance, he also helped us on the Ready to Govern developmental program. We were sent to the Wharton School of Business, we were sent to different colleges. We learned through Tanzania on other issues about the former liberation movements that have come into power. And he came in, he actually led with really precision. If you remember, it was through Comrade Zola that he had to reposition the payment of social grants because they were actually paid haphazardly, and it was like a federal approach. He stepped in, he said there must be dignity, there must be consistency, and most importantly, there must be accessibility for the indigent. We will miss him, a serious disciplinarian and somebody who was also quite exciting to listen to in his own dry humor. You would always enjoy being in his company.
Thank you so much. That is beautiful reflection there on the life of Dr. Thulasizwe. Minister Nomvula Mokonyane giving us those reflections, including, of course, reflecting on Mama Winnie Mandela.